they're looking at all different issues and how they're going to do it. They have come up with several alternatives. As you can see on page 43, there are, I think there's 5 alternatives, and each one has a different idea about where they would place tolling stations and how much mileage on 205 they would actually toll. Across the bar of, at the bottom of each of the maps, you can see there on page 43, 44, there are different relative merits to each idea about how to do that. So we have been looking at this whole idea. They're working through this year and hoping to have a decision this coming year about which of those alternatives is the preferred, but it will then continue through 2022. And they're looking at sometime in the 24, 25 timeframe to actually be up and running tolls. Now, there's a lot of questions about this as to whether the receipt of tolling revenue is going to be aligned well enough with the actual construction needed on the physical facility on the roads and the bridge to actually be usable. There is an idea that they might bond against that future tolling revenue to get funding in the nearer term to do the construction and then pay those bonds off over time with tolls. But there's a lot of questions in these studies that haven't been answered. So we are proposing to send a letter, and I wish I could tell you exactly where the letter is here. Just a minute.
Good, thank you.
The letter starts 69 of 330, which is the draft letter that staff has worked with several of us to put together. And this is the comment for the National Environmental Policy Act alternatives. And we go through a lot of detail in this letter that we're proposing to send, and what the concerns are we have about it. The financial necessity question is we've built our whole freeway system without toll, and if you're going to create tolls now, is it equitable to do that just on the section that runs through Clackamas County here, in which case people that use that section will be paying, and people that are using other sections of the system around the metro area are not paying, and, you know, is that the right way to go? Has it really been looked at? There's concerns that the tolls collected not be directed toward other parts of the freeway system, that there be a commitment to those monies that are collected on this section of 205 will be spent on the area where the improvements need to be made and the immediately adjacent areas, perhaps of affected surface streets. So those are kind of major points, but then there's other points also about what the intentions are about things like diversion. What happens with people that, I'm sorry, I had the wrong letter up there to start with. Our letter as drafted currently starts on page 76. And we reiterate those initial points, but then we also talk about what happens about pushing people off the freeway onto local surface streets. Stafford Road has already got a difficult accident history, and there was regrettably a fatality on Stafford about a week ago, a young person. There's been a long history of difficulty there, but pushing more traffic onto Stafford Road possibly people that would be on I-5 and would get off at Wilsonville and take a cutoff up Stafford Road to get over to 205, or maybe continue on northward on Stafford Road up into Lake Oswego and go into Portland that way. So there's not clear how we're going to evaluate the diversion onto adjacent streets and what those impacts mean for the adequacy of those streets and any improvements or projects that are needed on those streets to handle that. Then you have the additional question of will tolling push the people who are least economically able to afford tolls off onto the streets, and so will we have disparate impacts on people depending on their economic abilities at this time. There's talk in the Odot presentations about trying to encourage people to take transit alternatives. We find, however, that between I-5 and Oregon City on 205, there are no transit alternatives to take. So the idea has been discussed about bus on shoulder around that area, and Dwight and his smart staff have even run a test in conjunction with TriMet on doing that, but it's not at all clear that there is a commitment to making that happen. So that's another issue that we bring up. Anyway, hopefully you've had a chance to read this in here, and we are proposing to send this letter to ODOT to express the range of our concerns around unresolved or unaddressed issues as they move forward. I suspect from discussions we've had that it's entirely possible that it will require legislative action to broaden the mandate the legislature previously gave ODOT if we are going to insist that they address all of these different kinds of issues. So I would welcome questions or discussion if you have them. Councilor Linville.
Well, Your Honor, I agree with most of the concerns and the comments that are in the letter, and I particularly was concerned about the lack of at least a discussion initially from the OTC about what the local impacts might be of the tolling particularly on Wilsonville. I also have concern about any of the proposals where it is spot tolling that might impact us in an unequitable way and our citizens in an unequitable way based on some of the alternatives that the OTC proposed in their site for comment. So I don't see anything in the letter that I would not support in terms of communicating the concerns of Wilsonville.
Thank you. Councilor West.
So I absolutely stand in opposition to tolling on the I-5205. I think there's other creative ways to find funding mechanisms to deal with the transportation issues. ODOT has already admitted to diversion issues, and our country roads are not designed to take everyone's diversion off of 205 to avoid the tolling. Those roads are already maxed out or near maxed out, and we've already talked about the fatality that happened, the tragic fatality, and then it would be much more burdensome to have those roads maxed out further. And I think that it would, Wilsonville would be negatively impact not only in the residential regions, but also our economy, but negatively impact. We already have to deal with gridlock issues because of I-5, and then we would be that much more impacted just by the tolling. I'm also think we might want to add something in the letter about property values. I've read some studies out of other states that show that property values are disparately impacted when they're impacted by tolling, and what happens is someone's property assessed value goes down and we're in an economic downturn. Somebody can go to the county and ask to have their property reassessed and lower their property taxes, and that affects funding of essential services and government services. So I think that maybe considering more about people's property values being impacted by this is a real concern that we should have. Also, the variable piece that can come to it where the pricing can change depending on peak hours. I think a lot of times you have working families that, like you said, are trying to go through these areas to get just to and from work. And because we live on the outskirts of the city, they rely somewhat on some vehicles just to be able to get to work. Some of these are single moms, some of these are just working families, and they're going to be hit harder than others. So I don't think that that's an equitable issue. And I think that we also still are waiting for federal approval. There's so many questions about it, but I totally in opposition to the tolling issue. And I hope the council, it sounds like, I like the tone of the letter, but I would like to add maybe a property piece of how does it affect people's property values. And those are my comments.
Thank you. Other comments?
Kristen, we can't hear you.
Can't hear you. Kristen, we can't hear you. Kristen, we can't hear you. Kristen, we can't hear you. Can we hear her?
No, no.
We can't hear you.
She can't hear you either.
Did we mute ourselves? No.
Are we muted? What's going on?
Did the phone hung up on us, huh?
We can't hear.
Did the phone hang up?
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's on.
Okay.
Can YouTube hear?
Probably not, no.
She's still going.
Welcome to Zoom. Enter your meeting ID.
I think they can hear.
We can't hear you. We can't hear you.
Enter your participant ID followed by pound.
We can't hear you.
You have entered the meeting as a panelist. Attendees can now hear you speak. Message, so.
Now we can hear.
Now we can hear you.
Let's see what council has, or the staff has to say here first.
Okay, so we didn't hear anything that Councilor Ackerval said from the beginning, so hopefully you can remember every word in the same exact order. And you can start now.
We could try to use the chat. Tell staff.
Now we can hear you. Councilor Ackerval, can you hear us?
I'll send a message.
She can't hear us.
Oh, now we're muted.
We're having technical difficulties.
I think we can now.
Can you hear me now? Councilor Ackerval, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so if you can remember every word you said in the exact same order, you can go now. We didn't hear one word. Once you started talking, we went silent.
I don't know when I cut out, but my comments were basically, did you get the whole part where
We did not get one word of what you said, Councilor. Not one word.
No, one word? Okay. Basically, my comments were, I saw that this letter, it references some of the concerns that were brought up by the letter sent from C4 and references some of those, and I had previously also read the letter from the C4 committee and agree with the points that were made both in that letter and this letter. You know, I said, that there's definitely a need for funding for our transportation system, but it seems that there's many things that are still unanswered. And this letter is asking that we are able to investigate and get a little bit more information on some of those questions that we have lingering. And I definitely support us in trying to push for those answers, because I do think this could have a big impact on surrounding communities, certainly Wilsonville. So I'm supportive of the letter. Does that sound pretty accurate to everyone else about a retally?
I remember.
Retally? Pretty much word for word, so thank you.
All right. Councilor Lehan, did you want to?
Just briefly, because it was said brilliantly just previous. But I agree with the points in the letter. I have concerns about tolling that have been raised before, and I think it's, you know, obviously we are a significant partner with Odot and the Transportation Commission, and because of the role that Interstate 5 has with Wilsonville. So I want to pursue these projects. If they have ideas, we have ideas. I want to look at their ideas, want them to look at our ideas, and we'll, you know, solve the bigger problems if we can.
Yeah. Okay. Mr. West, something else?
Just really quick, do you guys like the idea of adding something about how this affects property values or a study on that in the region in our area, or do you think that's not appropriate? I'm just curious.
Well, I would like to lead a little discussion if I could on that topic. I've been in probably a dozen different meetings on this topic over the last year or two, and a decrease in property values has never been brought forward in any of those meetings. So I think the bar to demonstrating that is significant at this point in time, and if we were going to put that forward, I would not want to do so without documentation that we could point to. At this point, I don't have that documentation. So maybe there's certainly things that we don't know, and but I don't have that data to be able to really support that at this point in time.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, Mark has been listening in, and we've been texting back and forth. We might be able to put in some language that just says that we would hope that ODOT and others would study, include some money to study perceived or real impacts on quality of life. Certainly, it would be hard to quantify reduction in property values based on increased traffic. I mean, you could make an argument that if you own commercial property, your property values would go up. So that might be more problematic, but we can certainly add some language about potential impacts on quality of life for neighborhoods. That wouldn't be too difficult to add if you wanted to add something like that. It's up to you.
All right, so that's a possibility. The second issue that I'd like to get on the table is the question about opposing it entirely. Again, the Oregon legislature passed this directive that said ODOT is supposed to do this. At this point, it seems to me that there is not a preponderance of opinion in the Oregon legislature to say, no, we didn't really want you to do that. We didn't mean that. You know, let's go some other direction. Absent that, it seems to me that we are, from a responsibility standpoint, needing to respond to what is on the table and what is happening. And what is happening is not a discussion about whether tolling is appropriate at all or not at this point in time. That isn't to say that some future legislature might not conclude that, but that's not the direction that the entire region is moving at this point in time, and that inertia tells me it would be fairly difficult to try to stop the whole train at this point in time. It might well run us over, and we would not have any impact on how this was done. So I think that we should comment on our best judgment about how it's being done and see what effect we can have. But I'm welcome to discussion now. Whose hand did I see? Councilor Linville, I think.
Well, in reference to Councilor West's comments about the property values and Mark's response in terms of quality of life or I can't remember exactly how it was stated. Most of what I have read about the impacts of tolling adjacent to communities that references anything about property values does it within the context of economic development, the impacts on economic development, which might be multiple kinds of impacts on a city that has a toll, a highway with a toll either adjacent to it or within it. So I wonder if it's more an issue of economic impacts than it is quality of life.
So are you proposing that we add some wording of some kind, or you're saying, something else?
I was just trying to say that if Mark is going to add something that relates to what Councillor West's concerns were, my recommendation would be that it's within the context of speaking about the impact on the economic impacts on the city rather than the quality of life. That's
candidly, I have a hard time understanding how that would come out. I mean, certainly we could do that, but say you run another 1,000 or 2,000 cars a day off at 283 and they go up through Wilsonville, past the high school, and out onto Stafford Road. Well, are those going to be a benefit to the businesses that are located in Wilsonville along Stafford Road? So they're actually having a gain at the eating places and whatnot, and at the town center stores, and then would it be detrimental to the people that are residential out along the edge of Wilsonville? I mean, the impacts are so different for different scenarios. I have a hard time making, in my own mind, an argument that I think holds up strongly, one way or the other, to say no, it clearly is this way and not the other way. And I think it would be a difficult position to defend, in my mind, I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, I guess I'm trying to clarify, because I think there are a number, in addition to, in the comments that are being made, there's an emphasis and a focus on the impact of the impact of the tolling and possible diversion as being the primary concerns. But within other areas that are identified in the letter, there is a relationship to economic impact in the city that relates to, for instance, number 3, the potential impacts. That one is a local potential impacts. It could be added in there, some issues about impact, asking for ODOT or the OTC to look at other impacts to the community, local potential impacts.
Okay.
That's all.
All right. So would the council like to see us add some wording under number 3, something along the lines that Mr. Odot is suggesting? And Councilor Linville, Councilor West?
I guess the study that I'm referencing was out of Caltran, and it was a study that talked about air quality and property values. That's the one that I am referencing. It may be scant information, and I don't have it, of course, in the middle of the council meeting right at my fingertips, like you said, you don't either. So that's my concern, is that, yes, economic impact, air quality issues, and then surrounding traffic in that area causes that property value to drop. All those combined factors from the tolls. But I do like Mark's idea. I don't know if it seems a little too broad, but I do like Mark's idea about that quality of life piece of it. I think it's, even if we want, maybe we need to like encompass like the potential impact or additional research done on property values. I think we should be doing that. What is the air quality environmental impact going to be? And I think all of that can be encompassed in that quality of life piece of it. I can try to find that study and get it to whoever in the next few days or so, if we want to like reference that, or if people want to look at it. I don't know if it's, too late in the game, but I guess those are my thoughts.
Thank you. Councilor Akeball?
Again, maybe we're asking fine details that are difficult to bring up right now, in your memory, Councilor West, but was it in reference to a new toll road going in or an existing road that is now being tolled? Because I think that would probably also enter into, kind of the analysis of if we're taking this one scenario and then trying to apply it to our current situation.
Sorry.
Yeah, and I was just going to also add that I do think it's important for us to try to remain collaborative. I think it's good for us to have a strong voice in asking some of these questions and ask that these questions be addressed. But I think we need to remain collaborative, and I think that the letter has that tone in it, especially since it's also referencing some of the concerns that have maybe been raised by other entities, such as the C4 group. And, we're trying to solve this puzzle together because we do have a puzzle that needs to be solved together, right? And so I think keeping that spirit intact is something that's important. That doesn't mean that this is something we back down from, but there's a little bit of a nuance there, I guess.
Yeah. Well, we're not making the decision. Other people get to make the final decision, so we're certainly trying to have an impact on others, and how we're perceived is part of that. I don't want to go too long on this, but I mean, if people are generally in agreement, and I heard that from all the council that they are, I heard some indication that they'd like to add a little more wording, and Mark had suggested some. Is the council in favor of adding that additional wording? I'm seeing a couple of nodding heads. Everybody want to do that? If we would give Mark the authority to draft that. We need to get this going along pretty quick, but be happy to let him figure out where to put a little bit of that extra wording in as he outlined, even if it isn't quite exactly, fitting one or the other category. I think he could do that. Question is council ready to agree to send this letter? I mean, I guess a motion would be the cleanest way to do that and instruct staff if someone wanted to do that.
Your Honor, I move to send the letter as drafted with potential updates about quality of life and impact in the economic impact in the community to forward. I guess is that to the.
That's probably enough.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, do I need to? Yes, that's my motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Councilor Akeball seconds. All in favor, please say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. I've got 5 positive votes, unanimous in favor. Thank you very much. All right. See how easy that was without Mark here?
Yeah.
I got to find where I am here. There we go. All right. Third item under Mayor's business is Resolution 2851 with regard to declaring a local state of emergency. Ms. Jacobson, brief the public on this?
This one should be pretty quick. We talked a little bit about it earlier in executive session, but in the public record, I just want to state this came out of a meeting today that was held between various city and county staff members to talk about the emergencies surrounding the rapidly growing wildfires in the area and the potential need to work together and share resources and also be able to submit for federal and state reimbursement if and when it becomes available. So it's not the same declaration of emergency as our COVID. It's separate. It deals just uniquely with the fires, and it gives us the authority to take emergency steps to quickly contract, to share resources, and to submit for reimbursement with respect to issues having to do with the fire. It also gives us some additional police power to ensure safety, health and safety of people, to help move people when they need to be moved. The question was raised earlier about curfews. It could give us the ability to comply with curfew regulations or to enact some if there was compelling reason to do so. So that's basically what it does. It's a relatively short declaration, not knowing how long the fire situation will go. I just made it to go until October 15th. Hopefully it will be resolved well before then, but it's just kind of a date I pulled out of the air about a month away. So that's what you have, and there's really, I think, no downside to it. It just is the ability to work collaboratively with other cities and county agencies and hopefully get reimbursed if there's funds available.
Thank you. Council, any questions for staff to clarify? I don't see questions. Is there a motion with regard to Resolution 2851? Councilor Linville.
Your Honor, I move that we approve resolution number 284. Oh, excuse me. My resolution states in my packet that is resolution 2844, and on the agenda it says 2851.
What is it?
Staff?
2851?
2851. It's not in the packet. It's resolution 2851. We walk this on after the packet.
I'm sorry. Your Honor, I move that council approve resolution number 2851.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilor Akkerval, seconds. Thank you very much. All in favor, please say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Unanimous, 5 in favor, no opposed. Thank you very much. That brings us to communications, where we have a wildfire update on tap, I think, from Mr. Montalvo.
Correct. Is he queued up? All right.
Yep.
He's going to share his screen. Yep. All right. You ready to go, Martin?
I am. Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, great. I'm going to share screen with you here. I've got a very short PowerPoint. I've done that deliberately. My intention is I'm going to show you some of the online tools that we're kind of working with the county and the regional partners with. And let me switch this about just a moment. So just to give you an update on where we're at. So as of yesterday, we started taking some actions with staff in terms of looking out for staff safety, allowing staff that were in designated evacuation and then get ready areas to make personal arrangements. Today, city manager made the decision appropriately to let staff also suffering from evacuations, but as well as for health and air quality, all of the city facilities were closed. Essential staff stayed back, and we had everything covered with assignments based on our normal duties and emergency assignments. But as of today, City Hall and all other city facilities, with the exception of transit and Public Works and PD, were closed. That is the plan for tomorrow. We will revisit over the weekend and make a determination for Monday. You just approved an emergency declaration in preparation for response for the wildfire. Thank you very much for that. Appreciate it. To give you an update where Clackamas County is at, they declared an emergency declaration on the 8th. The governor has declared a conflagration for the fires both south and they also incorporated, I believe, the Shallum fire into that declaration. The county is speaking with the state in terms of trying to get a federal declaration. When we hear if that's been approved, we will advise you. I will tell you there are federal resources that are en route that will be coming to the local area in the near term to assist the state and the local agencies with fighting the fire. And we have received some requests for mutual aid. We have been fielding those as we have available staff or available resources. A lot of it has just been information sharing and some advice to them. So you probably noticed air quality has been quite poor for the region. This is today at 2 o'clock. Unfortunately, the air quality website is down right now, so I can't show you what the live reading is. But at 2 o'clock today, it was at about 125. Later this afternoon, around 5 o'clock, we were into the 170s. So as a result of the air quality, that's why city management made the decision to close the facilities and keep monitoring for the weekend.
I can add a little bit to that, Martin. Apparently we have the worst, Portland, Oregon has the worst air quality indicator in the world right now. Worse than Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam. So we're #1 right now. Go ahead.
All right. So currently, and this was at as of 2 p.m. this afternoon, City of Wilsonville is in level 1. Some of our neighbors have been transitioning to level 2, and the level 3 area is expanded again at 2 p.m. So just so everyone's clear, the state system, and this is universal across the state, is basically level 1 is advising people be ready. What I like to tell people is pack your bag. Level 2, be set. Take that bag and put it in your garage. Level 3, go. Get in your car, put the bag in the car, and drive away. Okay? So we're still at level 1. We have spoken to some of our HOA presidents and some community members, working with them, specifically spoke to the general manager for Charbonneau, who was working with the HOAs and their emergency management group to find out where they're at, and they are ready and set. So they have internal communication systems that they're ready just to get the message out once everybody gets the word out from public alerts or from local emergency management. So the police department's in a heightened posture, so they are prepared. If we do go to a level 2 or 3, what will wind up happening is everyone that's registered as public alerts will get a notification letting you know that you've been moved into level 2 or level 3. If it moves into level 3, you will get a public alert, and then our friends in the police department will start moving through portions of the city, advising residents that they are in mandatory evacuation areas. Other actions that we've taken in the last few days, so my team in Public Works and Parks, we've been staging emergency equipment throughout the city, splitting it, some of it on the west side, some of it on the east side, in preparation for if anything makes it into our area and we have to assist the police department or the fire department either with road closures, if they require heavy equipment, anything that could possibly use the resource, we try to get it out of areas where you have high fire fuel and secured it up in areas where you've got less fire fuel. We've got traffic control devices also staged in strategic areas throughout the city in preparation that if we need to funnel direction in one way or another out of the city, we can start moving them. And then Dwight Brashear has been working with SMART. He's got great experience from his past in New Orleans, helping with mass evacuations and public transportation. We brought him and Eric Loomis on board very early in the conversation, and they're ready to assist both the city and the region with whatever resources SMART has. So this is where we're at right now. This is still relatively current, and I'm going to share something different with you guys. These are some of the tools, and most of these we've been pushing out already to our website. under the page that we've created for fire response. So I will refresh this for you. This is the current fire evacuation zones. Notice that Wilsonville is still in green, level 1. They're using the Pudding River as a demarcator for this is level 1 versus level 2. Our friends in Canby, they're also using the Willamette River as a demarcator. Earlier today at about 2 o'clock, large portions of Beaver Creek, Malala, Colton all moved into level 3 evacuations. You'll notice these red dots indicate active fires that can be picked up through satellite imagery. This is fresh satellite imagery as of 7:10 this evening. So it's the most current satellite imagery. You can see where you've got enough fire production where it's being able to pick up. And as you zoom in, you can get a better correlation as to where that is spatially within our community. Get out of the way. There we go. Another thing I wanted to share with you guys is Odot trip check. This is something that we are pushing both within our community and within the region, letting people know before you decide, yeah, I got to bug out, check and see what is still available. For instance, our friends in Oregon City have significant congestions, significant roadway issues and traffic concerns, and you can get an idea of some of the live imagery cameras as to what some of those traffic issues is. Right now, the evacuation using Redland Road is at a snail's pace. And then the last thing, this is the Air Now Index, shows you where we are in relation to the Portland metro area with our air quality. And this is our peak that we hit earlier today at about 3 o'clock, and it was 427. So air quality has been steadily depreciating. We're keeping an eye on that. We'll make determinations on business practices for next week based on information that we start looking at over the weekend. That's everything that I have. I'll be happy to answer any questions that council may have.
Thank you, Martin. Council, questions? I don't know if I got everybody's picture up here at the same time. Councilor Ackerval.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing some of these websites, and I've seen them on the city's webpage too, which I appreciate. You know, that information getting put up and trying to help feed the resources to the community. One thing that I've been hearing as a question is, if we do need to evacuate, how do we know which direction to drive or go? Or if people are deciding to leave, for instance, if we go to a level 2, or they, you know, their own respiratory, they feel like they need to leave, how do they know which direction they should be trying to relocate to, so that they don't put themselves in another spot that's going to be having trouble?
So the two best things that I can give advice to is A, make a plan. What we're pushing very heavily, and I can tell you this from firsthand experience, you want to evacuate to friends and family. And Bill, Evans, and I have been pushing that message to our community. A shelter is last resort, especially in the age of COVID. So try and make arrangements with family and friends that are in what are now currently safe areas that don't have a high potential for wildfire incidents. So if you're thinking, I'm going to relocate to my family that's over in the Mount Hood area, maybe not a great choice. Relocate to some family that's potentially in a more urban, more suburban area, that might be a better decision. And in terms of planning your actual route, Trip Check is the most effective means for checking your route. One thing that I really like with Trip Check, and we do it for Public Works, is municipalities, agencies, we feed information into it. It's managed by Odot. Anything we feed into there, as well as the live imagery from our cameras, gets fed into Waze and Google Maps. So you're getting the information that's going straight to your nav system, but you can look at it on a two-dimensional map ahead of time and kind of plan your route.
Okay, thank you. And then also, you know, one thing that I've heard too in the community in the last several hours, I think we're all feeling such a huge appreciation for our emergency responders, firefighters, but I mean, all types. There's so many people that are working on this situation. And there's people that want to try to assist or help or provide aid in some way. And I've seen that the Tualatin Valley Fire Rescue media has put out the suggestion to give donations to the American Red Cross as a way that we can try to help do something or provide assistance. I was curious if you have more comments on that, or what we can be telling our community members that want to try to be helping at this point.
So I agree wholeheartedly with the recommendation from TVFNR, Clackamas Fire, all of the agencies, and local emergency management. I've responded to 8 or 9 hurricanes in my career, and I can tell you that donations management is a monster to deal with. And most community is through charities, American Red Cross, some of those agencies, either through material. In instances like this, it's predominantly monetary donations is what they're looking for. TV and FNR actually issued a press release 2 days ago, which we asked Bill, hey, piggyback this message. Do not bring donations to the fire stations. Do not bring resources to the fire stations. It is something that once you leave it there, they have to deal with it, and they do not have time and resources to deal with it. The experts from Dover in the context of donations is the American Red Cross.
The other thing that folks can do if they want to help is help your neighbor. Like if you live next to somebody that maybe falls into one of those vulnerable populations, check in on them, make sure that they have a plan or a way to get out if they need to. So not everybody is as mobile, you know, as a lot of us are. So just checking on those folks, making sure that they're okay and that they have a plan.
Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, kind of along those lines, I think all of council received an email just prior to our work session meeting tonight from a community member that was wondering how they could assist in helping transport people that may need help evacuating if they had an extra car or something like that. I wondered if you could give a little bit of feedback on that. And it sounded like, too, from your presentation that this is something that's been in discussion with SMART and resources that they could be providing. But I wondered if you could just give a little response to that idea of how can the city be making sure that everybody is able to.
Let me start with that one because I did see that email, and I wouldn't feel comfortable having people just show up because we don't know and we haven't vetted, and there's all kinds of risk associated with stuff like that. I would just tell people that we have the ability to move a lot of people out because of our own transit system in a pretty quick manner if we need to. So I would rely on, you know, trusted public entities. I'd be a little bit leery about just, you know, having citizens sign up to evacuate people because we don't have the time to vet them and do background checks and everything else that our city staff has to go through in dealing with vulnerable populations. So I wouldn't feel comfortable with that, providing that kind of guidance. And if Martin wants to add to that, he can.
I completely concur. You know, I concur with everything Brian said. It's a liability issue for the individuals. We're also living in the age of COVID. I can tell you Dwight and Eric have put together a pretty robust evacuation plan for our public transit system if it comes to that.
Great.
Basically, we're set up for a plan for level 2 as well as a plan for level 3. And I believe, and I'm not going to speak for Dwight, but I believe he's also coordinating with TriMet and Clackamas County and assisting them outside of our jurisdiction.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Councilor Linville was next.
Martin, I'm wondering, since our city encompasses a portion of Washington County in addition, I recognize that there's a smaller fire presence in Washington County, but I wondered if we couldn't also just put information up on our website that related to the status in Washington County so that our residents in Washington County would also be able to access that through the city website.
Yes, ma'am. We do have the fire maps for Washington County on the website in conjunction with the Clackamas County maps. We also have the statewide maps to make that available. We have links to public alerts, and I'll have to double check. Washington County has a sister system called Red Alert, and I will make sure that Bill also has that available to them. Both systems they're actually the same system, it's just one's got one name, and the other one's got a different name.
Okay, thank you. Councilor West.
Really quick, I guess we also have a large population of seniors and assisted living facilities. What generally, I'm sure when you say go, at that point, hoping that the triaging and the movement is already before that for very, very vulnerable populations. Either it's now or it may be phase 2 to make sure those that are at the most risk and the inability to move easily are already being moved. I was just kind of curious about that process. And then the other process is what resources, I may already know the answer to this, but I think we should put it on the record. What resources are available for those not only facing severe anxiety and issues around the stress of what's going on, but what about respiratory issues and other health issues without the fire even hitting us yet? There are real complications to this type of air quality, and what public health resources has the county made available to the residents also at this time so that they can have resources that they need with where we're at now and going forward?
So I'll answer your second part first. I don't have any information available regarding resources for mental or respiratory stress. I can research that and see if the county has something available. I know locally we have stuff for staff through our EAP program. And I think most employers have EAP programs or something similar to that they could utilize. But I don't know anything that's just generally available to the public. I can look into that through county public health and possibly get you an answer. To your first part regarding assisting living facilities or senior care facilities, so those are regulated under several stringent levels, both federal and state. So there's state and federal code that says they all have to have emergency operations plans. So in my previous career in emergency management, that's one of the things that I had to do is they submitted those to me, I reviewed them, and then signed them off for Hillsborough County saying you're compliant with the federal regulations. So one of the things they're not allowed to do is say, my plan is if the world goes upside down, I'm going to call the local fire department. I'm going to call the local police department. That's not emergency planning, because those resources in that same situation are going to be stressed too thin. What they have to do is have agreements with common carriers or common facilities so that if you're trying to evacuate individuals who have unique medical needs, you can't just call a bus to come pick them up and take them to an emergency shelter that's not prepared to provide their unique medical needs. So you have to have agreements with a carrier that can provide that medical transportation. Then you also have to have agreements with another facility that provides common services that says, I can potentially take your residents if you need to enact the mutual aid. So this is very common amongst the ALFs and the senior facilities. And they all say, yeah, I'm gonna help you. You're on this side of the town. You're gonna help me, I'm on that side of the town. That's typically what happens. Now, let's get to the reality. If we get a phone call from a facility that says we need assistance, the city will do whatever it can in the context of the situation to assist.
Councilor Meehan's been waiting, I think.
Waiting. I put my little blue hand up over there, but it just doesn't show. So kind of a follow-up on those things. or on, well, one is on what you had said previously, which is best place to go is friends and relatives to stay at their place. Well, that's who we are right now. We are the friends and relatives. I've put up 2 different parties since this meeting began, and I know there are people with RVs parked around in the neighborhood that ordinarily you can't park on the street and you can't sleep in your RV on the street. And when I looked at that Clackamas County map for where you could go and evacuate in your RV, there are only 2 places, and they're in like Gladstone and Milwaukee or something.
The Clackamas Town Center is a designated RV evacuation area, and the Gladstone Conference Center is also a designated RV area.
And
but I'm just saying, people's first inclination is to gravitate toward friends and family, and not go out to Clackamas Town Center. But I'm just asking about that if we would like people to take us in, we have to leave. Right now, we're the ones who are in a position to take in the people who are leaving right now out of Canby and out of Oregon City. A fair amount of them are headed in our direction. So my question is, with regards to that, is I'm presuming we are not enforcing any of those parking restriction things for this state of the emergency, because it's not just RVs on the street, it's cars. We have more cars than usual in a lot of neighborhoods, not only because of this, but also because of COVID. There are more people home, and anyway, I didn't know if we have a policy or if we can confidently tell people they don't need to worry about that for this week or this 2 weeks or whenever our emergency lasts.
You want me to handle that, Martin?
One of the benefits of the emergency declaration is you've authorized the city manager special powers and authorities.
Yeah.
And that's something that under his authority, we could enforce that for a period of time and then make a decision as to when we will. I won't speak for Brian, but...
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. The other thing is I did have a conversation with the mayor on this very subject, and we will look at maybe opening up certain public facilities that we own, like the back South 40 of the Smart Central, where there's a ton of parking and really nobody uses it. We could look at City Hall, on the farthest end of City Hall. So we will look at areas where we could possibly accommodate something like that. Obviously, we'll use a soft glove on any kind of complaints we get about people sleeping in vehicles, but the emergency declaration does grant me the powers to kind of waive those regulations as needed.
Well, and that puts my mind at ease on a number of things, and I think that's part of us, being a good host community for the moment that we happen to be in that position, because the tables could turn at any time. My second question is about respiratory with this really dangerously poor air quality. And I'm always reminding people this isn't the same as sitting too close to the campfire. These are toxic materials that are burning, that are in the air. When you see those pictures, those are vehicles that have burned, and equipment and buildings full of appliances and metal and plastic and everything. That's what we're breathing out there. This isn't a campfire. And so it really is dangerous air quality, and it seems like we should have some advice, for instance, on how to handle your air at home. Maybe we do, and I just haven't come across it on the website. But when I woke up this morning, and we usually have windows open at night, but when I woke up this morning and saw the air quality had deteriorated to the level that it had, the first thing I did was go around and close all the windows, turn on the air filter, the air fan that is part of my HVAC system. And it has been running and will run 24/7 now. We just recently changed our filters. So we are filtering our indoor air as best we can. But I don't know that we have, when I've mentioned that to different people, they've said, well, gee, I hadn't even thought of that. But you can get your indoor air quite a bit cleaner than the outdoor air by thinking through those steps. And then it would be reasonable to have other advice, like, which you occasionally do hear, as little time as possible outdoors. I don't know if a mask, I presume a mask might filter some particulate. So everybody has a mask these days. Even if you're walking out to get the mail, probably you should put on a mask because the air quality is just so bad. And so anyway, I don't know if there are, we spent a session talking about air handling with regards to our own facilities relative to COVID. But this is almost the exact opposite situation, because with COVID, you want as many air changes as you can and as much fresh air as you can coming in. With this situation today and tomorrow, you want no air coming in. You want and the other one is when you're in your car, you should have the circulation set to recycle, not fresh air. There is no fresh air out there. So recycle and run it through that filtration. But these seem like things that we might be able to post for the same reason that Republic Services today sent out notices and said they would not be getting out of their trucks. Their drivers were going to leave the glass at the curb that they usually pop out and put it in. They're not allowed to get out of the trucks because they're staying in that air filtered situation in the truck and not getting in and out.
I can work with Bill Evans, and we can definitely get some more information on our webpage.
Yeah, because
Go ahead.
Huh?
Are you done, Councilor?
Well, I'm just saying, I think there's more advice we could give on protecting your lungs and not doing heavy exercise is another one. This is not a time to be breathing deeply. Anyway, things that we might be able to say, especially for people who have respiratory issues.
We do have information on the website. We're linked to airnow.gov. There's a lot of helpful information on there on what you can do specific to wildfires. So I would direct people to there, and also we can put more information on what people can do with their own homes in terms of improving indoor air quality. And one of the factors that did lead to closing the city facilities is exactly on point with what you just said. We're trying to fight a virus here, and in trying to fight a virus, you need all that fresh air coming in, but we already have a little campfire going on here at City Hall. You probably can't see it, but we can. So it's kind of a, catch-22 for us. So that's kind of what led to the closure of the facility. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
Okay.
I have one other question, and that just because it has come up with regards to our facilities is our firefighting capabilities. If we can say with confidence that we have plenty of fire flow and fire pressure to handle situations in the city.
I can say with confidence we do. Our reservoirs are topped off. The water plant is functioning at peak capacity. We're speaking with them every day. They are essential staff, just like my staff, and they are coming in 24/7, making water for us. The reservoirs have been, it's every month. That's the first thing we check is the SCADA systems.
Yeah, I presume that to be the case, but again, it'd be good just to get that clarified, that we're on top of that as well.
One of the first things we check in the morning, ma'am.
All right, well, there's going to be a lot more issues. Certainly appreciate all the work staff is doing. Martin, the work you're doing, it's a abnormal situation for everyone. The governor has emphasized it's unprecedented for Oregon, and we need to be paying a lot of attention. I had thought about the facilities where we have fragile residents in retirement facilities in town also. And I know that it's accurate, what you're saying about everybody having to have a plan. I also have these memories in my mind about the pictures of New Orleans and Katrina and all these senior facilities that also had to have a plan, and yet they had utter disaster there in many different ways. And we certainly want to be thinking way ahead of that. So sometimes the statutory adequacy doesn't necessarily translate when we need it. So I'm not sure how we think about that, but it certainly crosses my mind.
So Dwight and I, we've had discussions regarding this, and as I stated earlier, the reality of it, we're prepared if duality appears.
All right, sounds good. Well, I appreciate that. We should move along. We've spent quite a bit of time on this unusual situation, and that's appropriate. We've got other business to do tonight. Thank you, Martin. Thank your staff for us also.
I will. Thank you for your time.
Yep. That brings us to citizens input and community announcements, which is an opportunity for visitors to address council on things not on the agenda. Also time to address things that are on the agenda but not scheduled for public hearing. Staff and council will make every effort to respond to questions raised during citizens input, either before the meeting ends or as soon as we can thereafter. We did have one email that has already been addressed from a citizen about helping to transport individual people. The only thing I would have with that is if you have neighbors that need help transport it, and you have capability, then that is somebody that you know, you might be in a position to help a neighbor even without having to go out and find people that you don't know to help. So. Staff, is there anybody else that has wanted to have input here, public?
No.
No one, okay. We then have, in spite of all the conversation we have councilor comments, liaison reports, and meeting announcements, and maybe we can leave the things we've already covered on the table and see if there's other things we need to. Councilor President Ackerman.
Sure. I just would maybe want to mention too that we did receive a notification tonight that school tomorrow is it's not happening. So we don't need to log into the Zoom meetings tomorrow morning because the Westland Wilsonville have some information on their website, and they sent out a notification tonight that those Zoom meetings for school tomorrow is not going to be happening. As far as other events, I can report in that, let's see, a week ago, I attended the Clackamas County Business Alliance, the Get Moving 2020 presentation that they had, kind of a panel discussion on that, and found that to be a worthwhile conversation to tune into and get some different perspectives on that work. And so I appreciated that. And, as far as this coming week, my thoughts are going to just be with our whole community and every one of you here on the screen, and every one of our neighbors and families and businesses and city staff as well. I am tremendously grateful for the work you are doing to keep our residents safe and keep pushing that forward. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilor Lehan.
Wait a second. I guess I'm not muted. Yes, I would just say the same. I don't have anything else to say. I know that that the city manager and all of our departments have been definitely on top of this situation, and I'm just very pleased to be a part of a city that follows these issues so closely and anticipates things ahead of time. So I'm very proud of our city, and I hope that we continue on along and come through this disaster on the other side and are able to help our neighboring communities, and that's about it.
Okay, thank you. Councilor West.
Hey, not much to add to everything that's been said. Everybody stay safe. Our neighbors around us have already had to have their families from the Silverton, Woodburn, Molalla area come and stay with them. I have family myself in Molalla I'm very concerned about, and their property. I don't know if it's there anymore. And people that I'm close to have already lost their homes and have nowhere to go. And I know that's the story of a lot of us. Safety first, honestly. Take the steps you need to take and take care of your health. And I know that we have had a tough 2020, and I just want to encourage everybody to just take care of each other. And when it all comes down to this, we're all neighbors and we all love our community, and this time's really hard for everybody, and it's not only stress-inducing and all these other things, but maybe somebody that you wouldn't normally have reached out to, or maybe you haven't checked in on before, or had differences with, put it aside, because we have to come together. And this is where a community's character is tested, and I trust and believe in our character. I trust in the wisdom of this council and of the city staff. I think everybody on this council is feeling the pain along with the city and the struggle with the city, and I think the staff is operating in the utmost professionalism and on top of it and communicating well, and we're doing the best we can, but we're in this together. So that would be my words to everybody. Don't shy away from asking for help. If you need help, ask. Reach out to somebody, and let's just take care of each other. I guess that's all I got.
Thank you very much. Councilor Linville. You're still on mute.
Sorry, thank you. The Willamette Falls Locks Commission met this last Wednesday, and it was actually a fairly low-key meeting. The staff that was originally contracted for the project of opening and working on a plan for the locks commission, that sunsetted on June 30th, and so it is anticipated that the $7 to $14 million that are required to get the locks up and running is not likely to be forthcoming in the legislative session, given the state's budget issues related to COVID, and I would imagine now with this fire situation as well. The Army Corps of Engineers has about $300,000 this year, and we'll have another $300,000 next year to continue to do repairs on the locks. And as you all know, our Wilsonville Concrete Products, a marine industrial company, has moved their loading machinery from Wilsonville to the Port of St. Helens, and they were very hopeful that they could use the water travel because it's the most efficient way to transport their products. And so we're sorry that was not, that all of these things kind of happened at the time when it was not going to be possible to get the locks open and help them as one of our local businesses. And I think that the Locks Commission itself does not expire until 2023, although I'm not certain what the work will be of the commission in the meantime. And as just a final note, I wanted to send my personal thank you to Mr. Cosgrove and our city staff, and particularly to Martin and his staff, for the work that they're doing in getting our city prepared for whatever might happen with these wildfire and potential evacuation. And one of the things that I just wanted to remind our folks, particularly if you have to evacuate, and this is on the website, on our website, turn your gas off before you evacuate, and make that quarter turn and don't turn it back on again. And be sure that if it gets turned back on, it needs to have a professional turn it back on. So I'm just keeping everybody in my thoughts and prayers, and hope for this to be over soon. So those are my comments, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. All right, let's move on to some of our regular business if we can, starting with the consent agenda, please.
All right, starting with the consent agenda. Resolution number 2842 has been removed from the consent agenda, and it will be heard in the future. So the only item on the consent agenda is the minutes of the April 1, 2019, September 5, 2019, November 4, 2019, February 20, 2020, March 2 and 16, 2020, April 20, 2020, May 4, 2020, June 15, 2020, July 6 and 20, 2020, August 17, 2020 council minute meetings.
Thank you. Is there a motion on consent?
You're forgiven.
Your Honor, to approve the consent agenda. Oh, go ahead. I didn't see it.
Councilor Ackerwall had her hand up.
I didn't see it.
Go ahead. You go ahead and finish with. You were mostly there anyhow.
Hopefully you'll second it then.
I'll second.
Your Honor,
I'm right behind you.
Okay, Your Honor, I move to approve the consent agenda as read.
I'll second.
Motion by Councilor West, second by Councilor Ackerwall. All in favor, please raise your hand. Say aye. Aye.
Aye.
5-0, unanimous. Bringing us to new business, Resolution 2844.
I believe that's already been taken care of. It was moved up to mayor's business. So that would move us on to, yes?
Well, that was named 2851, so is this the same thing exactly?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. No, this is the COVID one. So we have a resolution in order amending resolution number 2834 to further extend the local state of emergency and emergency measures as authorized by resolution number 2803. Our COVID resolution expires tomorrow, I believe, or today, and the governor has extended hers, so we similarly extended ours to go as long as the state goes. So that's all this is. Sorry about that.
And the extension this time is until when?
Okay. I don't know if there's a copy in.
I believe it was November 3rd.
November 3? Yes.
November 3, thank you very much.
That's the same day the state order expires. So if, and I think our council meets right around then again, so if we need to extend it, we can do that.
All right. Any questions from council? What's council's pleasure with regard to resolution 2844? Page for Ackerwall.
I move to approve resolution number 2844.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
For Councilor Lehan, second. Thank you. Discussion at all?
We need to make a
We're just hoping that we don't have to keep extending this indefinitely.
Yeah, I think so. I'll just,
If there's no discussion needed, I will ask for the vote. All in favor of the motion to approve Resolution 2844, please say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. I see 5 affirmative votes, no opposition, passes unanimous. Bringing us to continuing business, of which we have none listed. Bringing us to public hearings. Now we have first 2 of these. Ms. Jacobson, do we need to read these by title in order to have a motion to continue, or do we dispense with that?
all you need to do is make a motion to continue ordinance number 842 and ordinance 843. This is at the request of the applicant, who kindly offered to continue these because the applicant assumed that you might have a busy night tonight, and they're not pressed to do this immediately. So if you want to, the easiest way to do it is just to probably do a motion to continue ordinance 842 and 843 to your next meeting.
Which is, next meeting is listed as September 21, 2020. Councilor Linville.
Your Honor, I move that we continue ordinance number 842 and ordinance 843 to the September 21 council meeting.
Thank you. Councilor Linville, is there a second?
I'll second.
Councilor West, second. Thank you very much. All in favor, please say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Unanimous, 5 votes in favor. That brings us to ordinance number 844, which is a land use hearing, and 845 is also a land use hearing. Can we conduct these hearings all at once, or do we need to do separate hearings?
So we can read them all at once, and then you can read your script, but we'll just need to vote on them separately. But the presentation will be the same.
Right, but
so I'll go ahead.
Testimony once.
Yeah, you can take testimony.
Okay, if we could. Yeah.
Ordinance number 844, first reading, an ordinance of the City of Wilsonville annexing approximately 5.85 acres of property located on the south side of Southwest Clutter Street, just west of Southwest Garden Acres Road, into the city limits of the City of Wilsonville, Oregon. Land is more particularly described as Tax Lot 2100, Section 3D, Township 3 South, Range 1 West, Willamette Meridian, Washington County, Oregon. Ordinance number 845, which is a companion ordinance, an ordinance of the City of Wilsonville approving a zone map amendment from the Washington County Future Development 20-acre zone to a planned development industrial, regionally significant industrial area zone on approximately 5.85 acres on the south side of Southwest Clutter Street, just west of Southwest Garden Acres Road. This land is more particularly described as Tax Lot 2100, Section 3D, Township 3 South, Range 1 West, Willamette Meridian, Washington County, Oregon.
Okay, I'm sorry, I was looking for my script. Did you read both 842 and 843?
Yes, I did, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. So I will call to order a Wilsonville City Council public hearing on ordinance number 842 and 843, as has been read. Do any member of City Council wish to abstain, declare a conflict of interest, or report any ex parte contact or any information gained outside of this hearing?
Okay. Clarification.
Okay.
Are we doing 844 and 845? Not 842, 843, because we just continued those?
Yes.
Yeah. City recorder just noticed the same thing. We're doing 844 and 845.
That's correct.
Okay. So we'll start again. Thank you. We'll call to order public hearing, Wilsonville City Council on ordinance number 844 and 845, as have been read. Do any members of council wish to abstain, declare a conflict of interest, or report any ex parte contact or any information gained outside of the hearing? Councilor West, response? Thank you. Have all members familiarized themselves with the application?
Yes.
Okay, affirmative on that. Does any member of the audience wish to challenge the participation of any member of council?
There is no one in the audience.
And no call-ins?
No. Oh, wait, there's two.
We do have 2 call-ins.
Yeah.
For this or for testimony? Wishing to challenge or wishing to give testimony?
Do we know what they're calling in for?
To give testimony, I believe.
To give testimony?
Mr. Mayor, this is Lee Layton on behalf of the applicant, and we're waiting to answer any questions as may be needed. We have no objection to the participation of any member of the council.
Thank you, sir. Is there anybody else, or is that?
Is that it?
You have more than 1 or 2?
Well, Chad is on there, but he's muted, so I don't know if he's
Chad.
a colleague of Lee's.
Chad Lawrence is the civil engineer on our design team. He's with me.
Okay,
All right,
so we
thank you
assume
very much.
he's not looking to comment either, correct?
He is available to answer any questions if they arise.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. For those wishing to testify, please be aware that failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements or evidence sufficient to afford this city council and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes appeal to the Oregon Land Use Board of Appeals based on that issue. Failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues relating to proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow this council to respond to the issue precludes action for damages in circuit court. Testimony and evidence must be directed toward the criteria that staff will describe or other criteria in the plan or land use regulation which you believe apply to the decision. At this time, I'll ask for staff to present the proposed and list the applicable substantive approval criteria, followed by any comments from the city attorney. We will ask the applicant to make any presentation they would like. We will ask for members of the audience or call-in audience that wish to make a comment to do so, and then we will give an opportunity for the applicant to rebut anything that they think needs rebuttal. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic and Governor Brown's order, this meeting is being held remotely. Information regarding how the public could attend this meeting remotely and give testimony was provided by timely written notice published in the Pamplin Media newspaper, formerly the Wilsonville Spokesman, on the city's website and posted at the city buildings. Information published to the public explained the options for remote participation and testimony. Notice was also included that testimony could be submitted for the record in advance in writing. If you are listening to this meeting remotely and have not already notified the city recorder that you wish to testify at the time for public testimony, anyone who is on the call will be unmuted and asked if they would like to testify. You should respond at that time. For those who respond by stating a desire to testify, you will again be unmuted when your name is called. If you prefer, you may also submit written testimony by email at any time during the meeting by emailing the city recorder at the following address, cityrecorder@ci.wilsonville.or.us. This email address can also be found published on the city website. Any testimony sent by email will be read into the record. Please include your name and mailing address for your email testimony. If you are having difficulties with the instructions, you may call the following number for assistance and gain access to the meeting. 1-312-626-6799 and enter webinar ID number 815-3605-6468 when prompted. Please note that long distance charges may apply. When called to testify, state your full name and address for the record. I request those providing testimony not repeat testimony already given. Simply indicating your agreement with certain prior testimony is sufficient. Okay. Ms. Rybold, staff.
Thank you, Mayor Knapp and City Councilors. My name is Kimberly Rybold. I'm Senior Planner with the City. As required by statute, I would announce that the criteria applicable to these applications are stated in Exhibit C of Ordinance 44 and Exhibit B of Ordinance 845. Copies of these exhibits and the staff report are available on the side of the room and on the city's website. So before you tonight, I will be presenting ordinance number 844 and ordinance number 845, annexation and zone map amendment requests for the Coffee Creek Logistics Center. The subject property is located within the Coffee Creek industrial area on the northwest side of Wilsonville, currently in unincorporated Washington County. As part of the 2018 Coffee Creek form-based code adoption, the city modified land use review procedures in this area, which allow for a concurrent processing of annexation and zone map amendment requests along with other plan development applications. This process for this application, which is shown on the bottom of this slide, allows for the City Council to review these requests without prior review or recommendation by the Development Review Board. The subject property consists of 5.85 acres on the south side of Clutter Street, just west of the intersection with Garden Acres Road. The property is currently, as I mentioned before, within unincorporated Washington County, and it is within the Coffee Creek industrial area. The property proposed for annexation is contiguous to the land currently within the city. It is within the urban growth boundary, and it is planned for industrial uses on the city's comprehensive plan map. The property owner has consented in writing to the annexation request, therefore council is able to move forward with annexing this property into the city. The applicant requests that the property be rezoned to the Planned Development Industrial Regionally Significant Industrial Area Zone, consistent with the city's comprehensive plan and Metro's designation of Coffee Creek as a regionally significant industrial area. In addition to these two requests, there are other applications that are a part of this proposed development that are currently listed on this slide. And these application requests will be reviewed by the Development Review Board at a public hearing on September 28th. All of these application requests will be contingent upon council approval of the annexation and zone map amendment before you tonight. Based on this information and the findings that are included within the staff report, staff recommends adoption of ordinances 844 and 845. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about these requests. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, questions for staff with regard to the item before us? I'm not seeing any questions. If that's the case, I will ask then for any comments from City Attorney that we need to hear.
No comments from City Attorney, just applicant next.
All right. We will invite then the applicant to make any comments they would like to make.
Any rebuttal?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is Lee Layton of Mackenzie. For the record, 1515 Southeast Water Avenue, Suite 100 in Portland, 97214. Let me say it's a pleasure to see you and Councilor Lee Han again. I haven't had the pleasure of being before your council for some time now, so it's very good to see you. Let me begin by saying we really appreciate the excellent guidance that we've received from your staff in helping us prepare this very complex application. We're very, very excited to be the first project moving forward to construction in Coffee Creek, and we're eager to be the guinea pig for the process that lies ahead. The staff has been working with us very nicely, not only on sharing technical information, but scheduling the hearing in a very timely manner. And I want to be sure that you know how much we appreciate that. So with that, the technical issues are fairly straightforward because the city's done such a good job of planning for this area. This project's development plan will include extending public utilities as needed. It'll include constructing Clutter Street, and we've had extensive coordination with your civil engineering team. Our design engineer, Chad Lawrence, is on with us this evening if you have any specific detailed questions, but those really kind of belong to the design review application that's coming up next. So really, I'm here to say we're very excited to move forward, and we're prepared to answer any questions you may have so that you can confidently move ahead with this annexation request. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Council, any questions for the applicant, Mr. Latham? Can't even scare up a question for you tonight. Well, we're excited to have somebody moving forward under our form-based code, which we worked awful hard to try to get into a body that can be used effectively, and we're hopeful that it will prove to be that way. We are watching the DRB process that will go forward also. And certainly, I guess I should say that we also have been, of course, working greatly on Coffee Creek here for a period of time, and we're hopeful that investment in that area will come to the forefront, and that we will have many different private sector people finding it to be an appropriate place to invest in plant equipment and employment. So given that there's no questions really at this point, I think I'm up to needing to ask for public input. Is there any member of the public that is either present or on the phones to want to speak on this application?
Negative.
Nothing, huh? Okay. Mr. Latham, any other word you would like us to hear?
No, nobody's given me anything to rebut, so I guess I get to settle down.
All right. Council, is there a motion with regard, we need to do these individually, with regard to 844, and I need to go back here because...
Close the hearing.
Needs to close the hearing.
You need to close the hearing, Mayor.
Close the public hearing?
Yeah, I need to close the hearing. So I will close the public hearing and ask for a motion from council on 844. And I just want to clarify, 844 is the annexation ordinance?
Correct.
Is the annexation ordinance, okay. Is there a motion?
I move to adopt ordinance number 844 on first reading.
Thank you. Councilor Lehan, motion. Is there a second? Councilor?
I second.
Councilor Linville, seconds. Thank you. Discussion?
Very exciting to be moving forward with this project, and we have worked on this area a long time, since before the prison was built. We've been working on industrialization in this area, and so this is an exciting move.
Councilor Linville?
Your Honor, I also want to forward my excitement with this development. When I was applying for appointment to the City Council, this was identified as one of the areas that I'm particularly interested in as we look to developing the industrial area. As I understand the development review process, I'm also excited to kind of see how the form-based code process will work. And I know that there are requests for some waivers that the Development Review Board will address. And so I look forward to seeing how that process goes through and comes back to council.
Thank you. Anything else? If there's no further discussion, I think we're ready to call for a vote on first reading. Motion to approve ordinance number 844. All in favor, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimous, 5-0. That brings us to 845 ordinance, which is the zoning, I think, if I can find it here.
Yes.
Why can't I find the ordinance?
It was probably a motion to adopt.
Motion to adopt, I'm sorry. Page 311, ordinance number 845. What's council's pleasure with regard to ordinance number 845? Councilor Linville.
Your Honor, I move that we approve ordinance 845 on first reading.
Okay, Councilor Lehan is asking us to use correctly the verbiage of adopt an ordinance.
Excuse me, you're absolutely correct because I don't have that motion in front of me. But Your Honor, I move to adopt ordinance number 845 on first reading. Thank you, Councilor Lehan.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Councilor Linville, second by Councilor Lehan. Discussion. No discussion needed. Going once, going twice. If that's the case, I'll ask for the vote. And again, I think this is a first reading. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All in favor of the motion to adopt ordinance number 845 on first reading, please signify by raising your hand. Say aye.
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 We have 5 in favor, no opposition, passes unanimously. So we will all look forward to watch the process as this goes to DRB. Thank you, Mr. Latham, and your people.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be adopted by the Wilsonville City Council.
That's funny.
Okay.
You're easily amused at this time.
I am, truly.
I think we're getting close to the end of business here then for tonight. Mr. Cosgrove, any city manager business beyond what we've discussed?
Yeah, well, I just want to acknowledge something that's obvious to everybody is that 2020 is the gift that just keeps giving, right? But to quote Garrison Keillor, it could always be worse. So to that end, I just want to acknowledge that, you know, we're dealing with some pretty heavy issues here, but Silverton, Mill City, Detroit, Phoenix, Tangent, and Malala, my thoughts are really with those cities. Obviously, I managed Silverton for 10 years, so I'm kind of aware of what's going on with a lot of what's going on there, but man, it's tough out there, so I want to acknowledge that. To our residents and businesses, I just want to reiterate, we should all have a plan and we should all be ready to move on a moment's notice. If you have not already done so, linked on our website, you can opt into Clackamas County's emergency text alerts. You can perfect that data by putting in the city that you live in. I would encourage folks to do that. Additionally, for anybody that owns an iPhone, you can turn on your government alerts. If you go to settings, then notifications, at the very bottom of that list, there are 3 tabs, one for Amber Alerts, one for government notices, and one for emergency notices. If you haven't turned those on, I would highly encourage you to do so. Other than that, I just want to wish you all well, stay safe, be healthy, and take care of yourself as well as you can in these challenging times. And I did want to acknowledge my staff as well. I appreciate all the comments from council and the community. We'll continue to do everything we can to provide our services and protect our property and our residents. So thank you for acknowledging that. That's all I have.
Yeah, and absolutely. Thank all of them also, because I know this is not easy anywhere in the whole scope of things. Legal business, anything?
Just a couple of things as an update. As you are all aware, we have a pending motion or a pending petition before LUBA with respect to the Aurora Airport. It's been on hold for quite some time while we were attempting to settle the record. The record has been settled, so we are on a briefing schedule now, and our brief will be due on September 20th, I believe, and then the respondent's brief is due 30 days thereafter. On the other matter we've talked about in public at the last council meeting, which was the TLM holding, wherein the planning director for the planning commission president for Aurora came and asked if the city would support their appeal of the TLM case. We have not made any commitment on that, and to date, we have not received a written decision, so nothing new to report there, but I'll keep you advised if and when something comes in with respect to that matter. And then finally, on the only happy note I can think of today, happy birthday, Brian Cosgrove.
Oh, hey, thanks.
Oh.
Thank you. I just got a text from Martin.
No candles.
Thank you. But the county has imposed a curfew. I don't have any of the details, but we'll get that on our website too.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else for the good of the council? If not, I think we're probably ready to adjourn here, and we'll call us adjourned at 8:55 p.m.
Good
Thank
night.
you very much.
Be well.
And
Goodbye.